Okay, in this video, I want to start talking about setting up linear equations and actually solving them. For my first example, I'm just going to have two equations with two unknowns, and I want to describe how we might solve these. So this is a system with x and y, and I want to solve for both x and y. So I have 5x plus 25y equals 355, and the second equation is x plus y equals 27. Okay, so I'm going to use a method called substitution, where I can rearrange one of the equations, plug that answer into the other equation, and then start solving. Okay, so I'm going to take the second equation here, and I'm going to solve it for y, which means I'm going to move that x, so I have 27 minus x there. All right, now I have what y equals. Y is equivalent to 27 minus x. I can plug this information in to the first equation, and then, whoops, I pointed to the wrong thing. I can plug it right in for the y, and then I can set up an equation. So I have 5x plus 25, and then I've just solved that y is equivalent to 27 minus x. Okay. And that equals 355. So I've rewritten the first equation, and now it only has a single variable. It only has x in it. So that means I have a pretty good chance of solving for x. Okay, so the rest is just kind of my algebra skills. That's not too bad. I have to go 25 times 27. Well, let's see. 20 times 25 would be 500. So I can write 500. And then 7 times 25, well, I could do 8 times 25, and that would be 200, but I'd have to bring it back. So 175, just doing a little mental math there, sorry. 25x equals 355. Okay, let's start combining things. I have 5x minus 25x. That's going to equal negative 20x. And I need to put these two numbers together. Again, that was just my mental math. I had to write something down there. So that's 675 equals 355. Okay. So now I can subtract 675 from both sides. So I have negative 20x. And what's that going to equal? That's going to be a negative number since 675 is greater. So negative 320. So 320. All right, I'll divide both sides by negative 20. Negative 20. And so this would imply that x would equal, well, I can cancel the zeros. This becomes positive, and it looks like it's 16. So I've shown that x equals 16. Hopefully my mental math stuttering didn't waver from your understanding of how I'm solving this. Again, going back, I solved the second equation for a variable. I just y in terms of x, plugged it in the first equation, and then solved the first equation for x. Now I can go back and plug this in for x. So now I know that y must be 27 minus 16, okay? And that looks like that must equal 11, okay? So I've determined that y equals 11 and x equals 16, okay? And that's one way you can do it, and that was the method of substitution, okay? Now, the next example is a word problem, and it says Bilbo has $3.55 in nickels and quarters with 27 coins in all. How many nickels does Bilbo have? Okay, so I want to set up two equations with two unknowns. The unknowns are nickels and quarters, so I can use those as my variables. I know that a nickel is worth 5 cents, so 0.05, and I'll put just capital N for nickel. And I know that a quarter is worth 25 cents. Okay, so I'll use capital Q, and that equals 355. Okay, now I have 27 coins in all, or Bilbo has 27 coins in all. So nickels plus quarters equals 27 coins. And there it is, 2 equations with 2 unknowns, and now I can start solving for those. Now, this question only wants to know how many nickels does Bilbo have. So my next step will decide how much work I end up having to do. And it may seem counterintuitive, but I'm going to solve the second equation in terms of, I'm going to solve for quarters. So quarters equals 27 minus nickels. And this way, I have it in terms of nickels. I can plug this info in for quarters, and then I can solve for how many quarters we have. So 0.05 nickels plus 0.25, and that's 27 minus n equals 355. Okay, now I have a single equation with a single unknown, and it should be fairly easy for you to now solve for this. I'll go ahead and give you the answer that nickels equals 11. Okay, but setting these equations up and then getting to a place where you can solve it is the hardest thing about word problems. So I want to give you a heads up on that. So from there, I hope that it would be easy to find 11 just by doing the steps that we did before. And you might have already noticed that this question is the exact same question that we did before, except I multiplied by 10 just where it suited it. So I just moved the decimal place. That's another technique you can use. Okay, moving on to another example, I have the sum of consecutive integers is, or I should say the sum of 3 consecutive integers is 108. We want to find those numbers. Okay, well, they're consecutive, so they're one after another, one after another. That's what consecutive means. So I can say that A plus B plus C is equivalent to 108, the sum that's adding. All right, and they're consecutive integers, so they're one after the other. So that means B must be the number right after A. So I can write that B equals A plus 1, right? All right. Well, C is 1 after B, so that means that C is B plus 1 because it's one after the other. And I can also say that since they're 3 consecutive integers, that C is just 2 after A, right? So that would just be A plus 2, and that might be a little easier to use. So if I want to do one equation, I can write A plus, I'm rewriting the first equation here. So I'm rewriting this equation. And then for B, I have A plus 1. And then for C, I have A plus 2, and I know that that equals, 108. Okay, not too bad. Let's just go ahead and solve it. So I have A plus A plus A, that's 3A, and I have 1 plus 2, that's 3, and I have 108. Okay, well, now I can subtract both sides by 3, so let's do that. Minus 3 minus 3. So I have 3A equals 105. I want to divide both sides by 3. Okay, A equals, and what is 105 divided by 3? I can't remember. Looks like it's 35. So 35. Okay, well then B must be 36 and C must be 37. Okay, and those are my 3 consecutive integers. Cool. I don't know if we're going to have time for the next one. Next one's not that bad. Xfinity charges $50 installation fee and $87 per month. Write a function that represents the total cost. So the installation fee is the y-intercept. The $87 per month is the slope. So I'd have y equals 87 times x, or we could use t plus 50. All right, and for the $7 per month, I can plug that in for there. So I'd have y equals 87 times 7 plus 50. And it doesn't look like we'll have time to do that, but you can just calculate that yourself.